Hey, sports fans, Coach Nick here, and welcome to a B-Ball Breakdown live show on Locker Room, a new app that is coming up sooner than later for everybody. But we've been having a great time there with a lot of great people with information and conversations. And so right now I have Shaun Belbey on here with me, who is going to be talking a little bit about with me about, the conference finals and probably AD's buzzer beater and whatnot. So, Shaun, how's it going?
I'm good. Thanks for having me, Nick. Really appreciate it.
Cool. And then anybody over on YouTube, just let me know that you can hear us. I think you can. I see levels moving, so it looks like they can hear me. Can you hear Shaun? But give me a little shout out in the comments. Let me know. And then if you have questions in the comments, hey, shout them out there. Let me know, and we'll get to them. So I don't know, Shaun. I want to throw it to you. Like, what's on your mind? I suppose you saw the final shot again with AD. What were your initial thoughts seeing that all unfold?
First reaction was extremely disappointed. I love the Nuggets. Never really rooted for them before, but I thought this could have been an interesting series. Obviously, I thought the Lakers would win, but I was excited for a 1-1 going into Game 3, and possibly having an interesting series on our hands. But now, obviously, the Lakers are up 2-0, so I feel like it's pretty much over. But like you said, that last play, I'm not really sure. I obviously want to hear your thoughts. My initial thoughts were, what the heck was Plumlee doing? Kind of just didn't do anything, to be honest. And I'm not really sure what he was doing. I don't know if the coaches acknowledged Jeremy Grant to switch. I don't know what was happening. So I want to hear your thoughts first.
Sure. I mean, there's a lot of people who were throwing out information about like what was supposed to happen and what wasn't. And it was all interesting. I mean, you see Jeremy Grant before the play kind of pointing like down to the ground in a way that like I'm trying to like figure out, well, what does that mean as a player? And I suppose it probably meant that he wanted him to switch if it was a screen. But that's a really big if, right? Like,
right.
If LeBron doesn't move, he doesn't face, the direction of AD, to indicate a screen, there was no need to switch. And I know one of my buddies who's a coach was also talking about how, like, why would you put Plumlee in to lock and chase, across the top? But you do that because, A, you have to watch for the lob. You need a bigger guy to guard Anthony Davis, right? You're not going to put a forward on him like a three.
Right.
So yeah, it was just the weirdest thing. And now in the video I did, we saw him do this before in the bubble, where he kind of like just point switched off of Kuzma and gave them a wide open three, almost the same kind of idea. So you would think he would have sort of learned that. So it was a crazy play. And here's the biggest interesting thing for me was that because this almost worked in the Lakers' favor that there wasn't a timeout, because it seemed like the Nuggets were just sort of not on the same page. They couldn't get synced. And that's a really interesting take, because normally you'd say, oh, of course you want a timeout if you're the offense. But in theory, you're going to run the play that you've been running all season long in a situation like that, right? So maybe you don't even need to call a timeout, and maybe it is beneficial to the offense. What do you think about that?
Yeah, I mean, like you said, it seemed as the second that Plumlee got subbed in, he was kind of, out of whack. He initially tried to go and guard Rondo, taking the ball out, and then Jokic kind of was like, no, like, I got it, you go guard AD. But just right off the bat, it seemed like him and Jeremy weren't on the same page, like you said. And obviously, it ended in that buzzer beater for them to lose. But really terrible way to lose for the Nuggets. And I'm really disappointed.
Yeah, I mean, especially because, I don't think that the Lakers really deserve to win the game. They're pretty lucky in my mind to make it. And so that was a one thing that was interesting. And so, but then again, they hit the shot. So it's like, okay, then, he deserves it. Because, by the way, we can't, listen, I've been arguing this for a lot, and I wonder what your take on it is that, if you give an NBA shooter, and I'm not even sure, AD shoots threes, he's okay. But if you give an NBA shooter, like I was saying like 5 feet of space as he's beginning the lift of his arms into the shot, that's an open shot, no matter what happens after the release. And, you touch his fingertips on the release on a contest in the air. And, because you want to say, well, Jokic kind of got there and was sort of had a hand up. But, you know, I don't think that matters. I think that for shooters, you know, you need to be on him. You need to be within that 3 feet of space on the catch, or else it's an open shot.
Yeah, definitely. I would have been surprised if AD had missed that shot just because he had so much space, and 2 seconds is, you know, obviously a ton of time for him to get that off. Um, but yeah, I'm looking back at the play right now, and Jokic actually made a great attempt to try and, you know, close out on AD, more of an attempt than Plumlee did. And then Jeremy Grant had a late kind of sort of hand up. But you know, even that pass by Rondo, bounce pass right in the pocket, was a perfect way to set up AD for that shot.
Oh yeah, I meant to say that too. Yeah, he throws a lead pass right, and it bounces right up to him perfectly. Which, you know, a bounce pass is a bounce pass, but you know, sometimes they don't always bounce right, and he knows exactly how to manipulate that. He had thrown another one ahead to Caruso for that crazy. It wasn't a crazy dunk, but for that dunk,
Mm-hmm.
and he had the same kind of thing where you put a little backspin on it so that it bounces sort of more up, and he can run into it versus skidding or whatever might happen with a bounce pass. So,
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you know, it was Rondo again, was, you know, displaying incredible skill. What did I want to say about that? There was another thing. I'm blanking, but yeah. So, I know. The whole thing with Jeremy Grant was like, you know, he gets stuck underneath LeBron, you know, making sure he doesn't cut to the basket. It was the weirdest thing to me to see LeBron just take himself out of the play like that too. You know,
Yeah.
I can remember in 2015 against the Bulls when the coach at the time from Israel, oh my goodness, or coach in Israel, but he's from Princeton. What's his name? The Cleveland coach they fired. Anyway, him. I'll think of it in a second. But anyway, he called a play that wasn't going to be for LeBron for the winner, right? And he's just like, yeah, we're not doing that. And he started out almost the same position, and then flies out to the corner himself and gets that shot. So that was another one of those things where it's like, listen, here's a guy, here's LeBron James, who is completely and utterly deferring to Anthony Davis, which I thought was amazing.
Yeah, it seemed like you said,
David
LeBron didn't take one step the entire play. So he knew, it seemed like him and AD both knew what was coming, which is kind of surprising. And if Plumlee had just gone over, I feel like AD possibly couldn't have even gotten a shot off. So I don't know if that's a play they ran throughout the year multiple times, but it definitely worked the other night. So, I mean, good job by LeBron.
And that's the other thing is that play is run by everybody. A screen at the mid post, you know, on the lane line, the guy cuts out. I mean, that's the other thing is this was not a special, strange, crazy, you know, really clever bunch of motion. And to screw that up like that just seems mind-boggling to me, especially because we all know that going up 2-0 pretty much, you know, it's an 89% winning percentage, I think, for teams that do that in the conference finals. So that's a real rough. Now, the one team that could maybe, you know, do something about that is a team that's come back from 3-1 twice in a row. But I don't know. Hey, should we bring a speaker in? We have Mark Selig wants to join us probably and ask a question. So what do you say?
Yeah, sounds good.
Let's try it. Mark, what's up? Did he go away? Oh, well, I didn't see it till just now, but maybe he'll come back. All right. Well, listen, you know, let me just get a couple questions in here, I think, from the YouTube crowd, because we got a whole bunch of people in here. If we have anybody, if you want your question to jump up the top, obviously, there's always the super chat, which is the best way to get my attention. But let's see here if we can find anybody that there's funny. There's some D Rose fans in the chat. They kind of like want to spam this for some weird reason, but we don't need to talk about D Rose. Let's see here. I don't even know if I see anything great coming up in these questions here. Oh, well, Ethan wants to speak. Let's bring in Ethan, the man behind the plan here. What's up, Ethan?
No attention to the man behind the curtain. I just wanted to jump up and ask a quick question. Maybe zoom out a little bit, bigger picture. You were just talking about if any team can come back from 2-0, it's these Nuggets who, I guess, their series don't really start until they hit 3-1. But the kind of thinking about the game 1 and game 2 were really different. I thought the Lakers rolled. They were kind of on cruise control for most of the later stages of that game. And then, like you said, game 2, the Lakers were frankly probably lucky to be able to pull that one out, both on that last play and just in general. Was there anything for either of you that stood out in game 2 that the Nuggets were able to do differently or do better? And do you think it's sustainable? I guess the other way of putting that is, does the rest of this series look more like game 1, or more like game 2?
That's a great question. Shaun, why don't you jump in and answer that first?
Yeah. To be honest, I'd say kind of in between. The first game, they were coming off, another Game 7 series, obviously with the win over the Clippers. So I knew that the game 1, they were going to lose sort of by a bigger margin. But I don't know if they can have a performance like they did again the other night. I'm assuming tonight will be a Lakers win by about, 10 to 12 points. But I think it'll be closer out the way. But again, the Lakers will pull out or pull away towards the end. But I do want to mention one thing before Coach Nick goes is that last play that Jokic made to put them up one, where where Jamal Murray took the shot, airballed, and then Jokic somehow with one hand tipped it in with a few seconds left on the clock to put them up one. I thought that was an unbelievable play by Jokic.
Absolutely. And I pointed that out again. And that's the other thing is, on the other side is, some of the plays the Nuggets had to make just to be in that position were amazing and all time. So obviously that one was a big one. And so here's the thing that's interesting about that, because the IQ, obviously everyone sort of knows that the shot clock is running down and he doesn't really have much choice. But again, it just seems he had LeBron right there with a fingernail away from getting his own finger on it. He really didn't even get that much control on it to tip it that way. It was really amazing, and with touch, and it goes in. But the other thing, though, that Jamal Murray missed on the other end was on the block shot of before the Anthony Davis stuff. He tries to save it and throw it left-handed, one-handed lefty, and it kind of goes back under the hoop. I don't know. It looked like he was gonna almost throw it back towards the Lakers hoop, which is like a big no-no, right?
Yeah.
But what he should have done, and I honestly believe he had time to do this, was you grab it with two hands and just throw it up in the air high, because the clock will expire before anybody gets to touch it, call timeout or anything, although Lakers didn't have timeout. So that one, we saw, Magic did this once, and in 1980, whatever it was, where in a little bit of a way, where he threw it over his head and it rolled down the court and out of, ultimately the clock ran almost all the way out and they couldn't do anything about it. And so as a player, when I was growing up, you see that and you kind of store it in your brain, and you're kind of like, oh, we're ready to do that. He's too young. He wasn't around when that happened. So you didn't have that to reference. But I think going forward, if he would have enough opportunity to do that again, he would do that. And that would have ended the game and given it to the Nuggets.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I agree. First, it was an unbelievable block by him on the shot attempt by Danny Green. But I'm looking at it now, and it just seemed like he was, I don't know, he was so far from out of bounds. He had to jump so far that he probably just wasn't thinking to do that. But if he did that, it would have been an unbelievable play, which would have, happened, led them to winning the game. But not sure if anyone else has any comments on the last play by Jamal or on the shot by AD. But type some questions in the chat, and Coach Nick and I will answer whatever you guys have.
Yeah, let's see here. Is there anything on the? Oh, okay. Let's see here. No, I was looking on the chat on this on the whatchamacallit. Oh, we have actually somebody else wants to speak. Let's try. Let's go here and bring Mitchell Furman in. Oh, come back here, Mitchell. Okay. Oh, and then it disappeared. I guess, am I not doing this right? I thought I'm hitting the check button.
No, I'm here. Hey guys.
All right.
Oh, hey.
What's happening?
Ed, not much. Thanks for doing this. Just a quick question. Is it on the two defenders to be better, to communicate better on that last possession, or is it on Malone and the coaching staff to kind of prepare them to be ready? Or is it a little of both?
I mean, yeah, I would say it's both. And that, again, like we mentioned, the lack of a timeout almost hurts the defense, because you think that Malone would have a chance to go over all of that, and they didn't, because, there wasn't time. So, so you have to rely on the fact that what they've done, throughout the rest of the playoffs and the rest of the regular season would stick. But that, you could argue it might be more on Malone, because he already screwed this up once in the bubble in the regular season. And they didn't, and he somehow screwed it up the same exact way again. And I know he went to Duke, so I think he's smart, but geez, what happened there? Did we hear from Plumlee directly? Did anyone talk to him or interview him?
I'm not sure. I didn't hear.
All right, let's see if maybe someone on YouTube knows, because I haven't seen anything bubble up, and I'm like, and maybe it's they don't want him to talk, but
Yeah.
That was interesting. What do you think about that?
I mean, obviously it's on the two players to communicate without having a timeout to kind of prepare for a situation like that. But even if Jeremy had said to switch, Jeremy Grant, it's just kind of there's no reason to switch. It's obvious Plumlee could have just gone over the top and could have just went with AD the entire way. So, like you said, maybe it could be on the coach and it could be on the two players. You can blame both parties. So I don't really know who I would blame first, to be honest. It's just such a weird circumstance.
Yeah, and I was also reflecting on the question as far as what did they do that was different or not. And, I'm checking the Paul Millsap's game logs because I wanted to see the minutes played. What was really fascinating to me about that was, so in game one, he played only 20 minutes because he had foul trouble. And then in game two, he played 28 minutes. And I thought he was really not good at all. You go back and look at the net rating, though, and he has the highest net rating, primarily because he was in that last run in the fourth quarter where they really closed it. So he wasn't necessarily doing much in that stretch. I don't think he might have hit a free throw or two or something, but I thought he was such a buzzkill in the first half. He was missing layups, throwing the ball away, really like right in key moments when they were maybe had a chance to take control of this thing or get back into it in a way that I wonder if that would be the big adjustment they're going to have to make, is to cut his minutes, find another way to get Michael Porter Jr. in there a little bit more and see if they can't get a little bit better play from that position.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, Michael Porter brings something that Millsap and Plumlee don't necessarily do great, which is shooting the three. So we'll see. I don't know. I can see Plumlee's minutes going down. But I don't know. Tonight will be interesting for sure.
Yes. Now, we had a great question here in the comments on YouTube where, let's see here. What do you think about the awful performance by LeBron during game two of the fourth quarter? Is he getting a pass for it because they won? And certainly, it's a really great question. And I mean, I didn't give him a pass. I roasted him in my video because he had a terrible turnover falling down. And it would have been better for them. Well, actually, they didn't score on it was a live ball turnover. I don't think they scored on that in my mind's eye. But it was almost like it'd be better if it just went down and took a traveling call so they could set up on their defense. But he airballed the three. That was a really bad possession. And I think that's it. And then he also tried to create, and then ultimately the last shot was him giving it up to KCP and over to Caruso, and that was another thing where it's like, okay, when you're down in a situation like that, it's got to be LeBron or AD shooting, right? And it's like to be able to sort of play it like you're just driving and kicking in the second quarter was a little bit weird to me, especially because what I see LeBron doing now, especially in this conference finals, he's just holding the ball for so long.
Yeah,
And Seth Partnow had a good thing on The Athletic about this, where LeBron's teams just grind to a complete halt in the playoffs, and you could see it with your eyes. But this seemed even more so, even in the early part of the game. I don't know if you noticed this, where the ball would move a little bit, and then it'd go to him, and he literally just hold the ball for 5-6 seconds and not do anything. And did you notice that?
Yeah, I mean, I've noticed that a lot. My biggest pet peeve with LeBron is I don't know if you notice this, but whenever he gets a switch, he'll take the ball and back it out all the way till half court. Not half court, but he backs it out so far to try and get a running start on his guy. But no, I feel like he's been doing that a lot throughout the whole playoffs, just over holding the ball. And like you said before, that last play, I feel like he easily could have taken a floater, but he made that extra pass to KCP, and then who passed it to Caruso for the three. But I feel like in that situation, him or AD has to take the shot, just like you said. And I'd like to see him be more aggressive. He did have six turnovers in the game, which is too much for him. I'm not sure how many of those came in the fourth quarter. I think at least 2 or 3 of them. But no, we'll see how he responds tonight.
Right. I mean, especially because that air ball was a double pump. He just sort of didn't think about wanting to shoot it. And he's gotten criticism in the past for kicking the ball out and making the right play. And I actually applauded him for a lot of those things, even though it might not have gone, for a win for them. The guy was open. He did it the right way. But at some point, I've kind of probably flipped my mindset on that and thinking that, okay, it's got to be, either him or AD shooting, and you can't sort of take a chance. Now, that said, what was I going to say about that? Oh, yeah, he's gotten a lot of crap, LeBron, also about like holding the ball for a lot longer just to make an assist pass,
Mm-hmm.
And I've often felt like, I don't know how hard that is or how easy it is like to see that. Like, he's handling the ball, he's making passes, he's getting, 10 assists a game. And I never really thought I could kind of follow that. But you know what? In these games, it looks more like that to me, where he really is just holding the ball until and maybe that's what he's thinking he has to do. Like, this is the playoffs, and I got LeBron, and I have to control this. I have to make sure that no one's screwing around with any extra dribbling or whatever. So I'm going to make sure that they only get it when they're going to have to, catch it and shoot it or something. So I think I'm starting to see a little bit of that criticism, or whatever you want to call it, because it doesn't have to be criticism either, where he literally is just that's his MO, is like, I'm not going to give it up until I know the guy is like sort of open to shoot it and nothing else.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely. I agree 100%. I don't know how much more there is to talk on that, but
yeah. Here's an interesting question. Do you think that if the Lakers win and Anthony Davis wins the Finals MVP, does that make Anthony Davis better, or does that take away from LeBron at all? It's that's an interesting, like, sort of fan perspective question. What do you think about that?
Does it make him better than LeBron?
Yeah,
it was the question.
Yeah.
I don't think so. I think this is Anthony Davis's first time out of the first round of the playoffs in his career. Not sure. I feel like they'll give the Finals MVP to LeBron either way. I'm sure they'll both have big series, but I feel like it'll go to LeBron just because he's LeBron. But I don't know. I don't think that will make AD better than LeBron. I saw something on Twitter, people trying to say AD is now better than Tim Duncan because he hit that shot the other night. It's just not. It's just I don't know who writes this stuff.
Yeah, listen, AD is good. AD is very good. Duncan was also very, very good. It's but I think obviously Duncan's got such a much bigger body of work that he deserves at the very least. Right now, because Duncan never could shoot threes. I don't even know if you want to say AD can shoot them, and Duncan doesn't handle the ball like AD. So there are certain specific skills you can point out that maybe AD does better than Duncan, but doesn't make him better overall.
Right.
So I see. It's silly, but you know what? That's I get it. I understand why people would want to have that discussion. How about PJ Dozier? That was kind of out of nowhere, and I did see that Mike Malone thought that Morris tweaked his ankle, and I watched the play where that happened. But I got to tell you, it didn't look like he was hurt. Like, he was moving around. Morris was after that. But I suppose they should feel fortunate to some degree that he thought he was tweaked an ankle and put a Dozier in. What did you make of his minutes in the fourth quarter?
Yeah, that's another thing. If he had made free throws, the Nuggets probably would have won. Missed 4 free throws all in the fourth quarter, I'm pretty sure. But he brought great energy. Had a big and one. He just couldn't knock him down from the line, which obviously really hurt the Nuggets. But like I said, I liked his energy and what he brought out there at the table in the fourth quarter. So we'll see if he gets another chance tonight. I won't be surprised if they throw him in there earlier in the first half.
Yeah. Well, here's the thing, because he's good off the handle, and he was able to penetrate and kick a little bit. So he's not like a defensive person who can't do anything on offense, but he's not going to shoot it from the outside. And Morris was having a good game, and he certainly wouldn't miss 4 free throws. And I don't want to blame. Dozier missed them, but part of the problem is that he just clearly was overwhelmed in the moment to some degree, because he took a charge on LeBron, which was a big flop, but they gave it to him, which is crazy. That was crazy how floppy that was. But he had at least a couple dimes, or like one, and so he played well. He didn't seem intimidated in the moment until you get a free throw, I suppose, and think about it for a minute, and then blows those. But you're right; it was brutal that he had to miss all 4 of those. Or went 1 for 5 in the fourth quarter, because again, one of those means a tie game, and then 2 of them is a win. How about this? And I pointed this out in the video. They also allowed LeBron James to roll the ball up and save 8 or 9 seconds in the last 30, when there was 30 seconds left in the game. I mean, I don't know about you, but when I'm coaching and teaching, it's like one of the things I'd always say in any situations is you can never let the team roll the ball up. You have to get in there in the backcourt and stunt at him and make him pick it up.
Yeah, definitely. I don't remember that play. I'm trying to look for it now. But if the Nuggets let him do that, yeah, it's not acceptable. They definitely should have just stunted at him and had him pick it up just to get the clock going.
Yeah.
But again, I just want to say Dozier had a good block on LeBron too. I think it might have been a foul. They didn't call it. But he had after the charge, he had a big block on LeBron, and then that's when he took it down and he like went coast to coast kind of and drove and got a foul and went to the free throw line, but then missed the free throws.
Yeah.
That's
remarkable.
Like the Dwight Howard controversial call where like they said it could have been goaltending, but they didn't call it. Where he hit it off the rim.
Yeah, I mean, I think that one was close, but I would almost say it was within the margin of like being legal of the block.
Yeah, definitely.
But I kind of half freaked out in the video when we're talking about those plays that Dozier made against LeBron, because how is it possible that this guy, this playoff rookie, basically took a charge and blocked it and probably fouled LeBron and they didn't call it? Like, that is what is going on here? And not even to say that like LeBron, always gets those calls, but he does always get those calls.
Yeah, he does.
And at least one of them you think he would have gotten. It was so startling to me to see that. And it makes me wonder what is going to happen in this next game, because I would imagine LeBron wants to make a statement. He's aware of how poorly he played down the stretch. Although again, he is getting a bit of a pass because nobody's mentioned it really, how poorly he played. He kind of melted down, and it kind of played into the whole notion of he wasn't doing well, so I'm just going to screen for AD. I mean, and that's actually being a great teammate. So I totally get that. And by the way, AD was amazing. So you want him to shoot it. But somehow, again, to get Plumlee to have a brain fart like that is just an all-time amazing, without words. Do you want to talk a little bit about the Eastern Conference? Do you have any ideas for that?
Yeah. I'm a big fan of the Heat. Love the way they play. They have a great team. Not really sure who's going to win this series. I think the Celtics have better individual players, better one-on-one players who can go, and make a play late at the end of the game. But it just seems like the Heat have been playing so well together. I think they're 8-2 now, 8 or 2 or 9-2 in the playoffs.
Mm-hmm.
And they're just clicking on all cylinders. So, Jimmy Butler and Duncan and Bam and Dragic has been amazing throughout the whole playoffs. So it's interesting. I'm not really sure what's going to happen in that series. Two great coaches, obviously. So we'll see what happens tomorrow night.
Yeah. I mean, I've been really enjoying breaking those games down because, just even with the zone, it was really kind of cool I broke down the zone in game 2 and explained what they were doing. And then I actually grabbed the Clippers game where the Clippers had lit them up in over 2 different games in the regular season against their zone, and sort of pointed out some of the things. And, gosh darn it, they did it, which is great. And they got much better shots. And I would emphasize just as a point of that, in case you didn't see the video or forgot, was, they were setting a lot of outside ball screens in the guard of the 2-3 zone with a corner filled, which didn't give them a lot of, they didn't get great results out of that, especially because they weren't sort of getting the gaps. So what they needed to do was flip that screen into the inside. But when they were setting that, it was in the guard spot out top, or I guess we're now calling the guard spot the slot. When I was growing up, the slot was down where the dunker spot is now, but now they call that the slot. I don't know. That was the slot up in the guard spot. What they needed to have done, and they did this a little bit more in game 3, was get the ball to the wing and then inside ball screen that guard, because now you're attacking into the middle. You're bringing the center up on that zone, and you can have a lot more options with the right spacing. So that was a nice one to see. And then also, posting up the 2-3 zone works really well especially when you can lure those forwards who are actually the guards, right? In the 2-3 zone for the Heat, they're playing their guards down there, and they're coming up so much and cheating. It's working for them, but you could really hammer them by luring them up and then either sliding in back door. We saw one of those with Jaylen Brown. And then you could also then slide in, Cantor to post up on the center and for a quick move. So it's a great chess match for sure. And I think that it's ultimately going to decide who wins that series. What do you think about that?
Yeah, definitely. It'll be interesting to see if the if the Heat throw out that like kind of zone type defense again tomorrow night. I read on Twitter, I think it was Bam or someone said that they have a lot of adjustments coming for game 3. So it'll be interesting to see what happens.
Yeah.
I have a question for you though.
Yeah.
Do you know why the Heat were Saturday, Wednesday, and the Western Conference games were Sunday, Tuesday for this week?
Oh, I mean, I guess the question is, why was there a day off on Monday? Is that sort of the idea?
Yeah, I guess so. So why did the Eastern Conference get 2 days off, and the West there was only a day in between?
So I looked at it less as why like they got 2 days off, and more of why was Monday the day they decided not to have any games? Was there like Monday Night Football?
There was last night, but I don't know if that was the reason.
Oh, because that was my first instinct. It's like, well, it must have been something on Monday they didn't want to go up against, and that's why they gave that time off. I don't know if they looked at it any other way, but I don't know. It's a weird question, but I'm not complaining. I had a nice day yesterday. And it's been really nice. I have to tell you, since we got to the conference finals, because it was just so many games, and then that first round they were all starting so early. It was my mind was mush. I couldn't even take all that basketball, but it's a dream for the junkies out there. What about let's see here. I was going to ask. I think that also the key for the Heat is always going to be Dragic. And, they made a big deal about how, well, they put, Marcus Smart on him and he shut him down or whatever. And I went through that footage and I didn't really see that much. A couple times he denied him. He couldn't get the ball back. And so does that sort of translate into he's working a little bit harder, so he got tired or whatever. But they absolutely need him simply to just play better. He needs to make more shots, be a little bit more aggressive, getting those shots. And that would probably be go a long way toward getting the Heat another win because they feed off of that. And if not, then that's the big thing. I think he's the key. And I wonder if any of these, adjustments they're going to make are offensively related, because I have to imagine when you're looking at what they're doing on defense in that zone, for instance, there are a lot of more things they could do to adjust and take things away that could screw around with the offense. And so I'm anxious to see, which side of the ball they're going to have all these adjustments on. Yeah,
definitely. And like you said, I just want to touch on how important it is for Dragic to play so well, because Kendrick Nunn has been basically, invisible in the playoffs. He had such a good regular season. I'm not sure if his confidence went down or what happened there, but it'll be interesting to see, like you said, the adjustments made on both sides for game 3. I'm not sure what's going to happen, to be honest.
All right. Well, what do you think is going to happen overall in the series? Who do you think is going to win it?
I think it's going to go to 7. I'll go Heat in 7.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, for a little while there, it looked like it wasn't even going to get to 6.
Right.
I like the Heat, and I like their story. I like the fact that they're coming out of sort of not quite nowhere, but no one gave them a chance to get this far, and I just gravitate to those stories, and so I like them too. I think they are obviously closer to winning the series than the Celtics are. If the Celtics are going to win, it has to be in 7 games in my mind, but I think that the Heat can win this in 6. And here's an interesting question from Marcelo. He goes, do you think that Bam is going to be better than AD both in their primes? I'm a big Bam fan, and I can remember Dave before would come on and talk about him coming out of college, and and it was like, who? Now here's the thing: if we're going to stack up, and this is sort of like the AD versus LeBron thing, or AD versus Duncan, let's go individually with skills, and you can kind of look at that first and then decide overall. But I mean, here's the thing: Bam is 100 times better as a passer, right?
Yeah.
And so he's a radically different person in their offense. So I would go there. Okay, so Bam is better as a passer. What was something that AD is better at than Bam is?
We could just go probably shooting right now, free throw shooting and with threes.
Yeah. We don't even see him shoot threes, but you know what? I think he will get there pretty quick. He's got a nice form, right? Nothing about his jump shooting indicates to me that he couldn't get back behind the 3 eventually.
Right.
And he seems pretty solid from 15 to 18, which is getting there. But yeah, so we got to give AD that. I would certainly give AD the post-up moves and post-up effectiveness down there. I mean, Bam has tried and it's been ugly. And that needs to improve radically from the low post, I would say.
Mm-hmm. Bam, I mean, they're both unbelievable defenders. not really sure who I would give the nod to. Probably AD.
Really?
But Bam's done a great job. I don't know. I mean, it's close.
Yeah.
It's close. They're both really good.
I mean, this is the hottest take in the world, but I have a hard time with AD's defense a lot of the time. I think he can make the spectacular plays, and it kind of gets people really enamored with that. But like, I also see so many where it's like he doesn't try and contest, or he doesn't move the right way, and then he takes so many offensive charges or tries to. Which is really rare, I believe. And like, is there anybody else who's 7 feet tall that takes charges like he does? I don't think so. And by the way, I bring it up because he's going to get hurt that way, or he's going to open himself up and get hurt that much more. Although in his mind, he might be thinking, if I stay earthbound and I'm not up in the air challenging where guys are going to fly under me and whatever, that might save him. So that might be what he's thinking, but I don't know. I just see so many of those attempts. He did one, down the stretch in game 3 that was like, ended up, it was on Dozier, where, it's like, just contest that, block that, don't be sitting there in the fourth quarter in the last, 5 minutes trying to take a charge and then getting called for a block. It worked out for them because he missed both those free throws. But, that's a big thing that bothers me. And I would probably pick Bam. I think Bam might be a little bit more like dynamic and all over the place. I posted something on Instagram from the game 1 where he literally helped out on 5 different, drives and then forced a steal. So I don't see AD doing that as much. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I agree, 100%. Bam's all over the floor. I'll probably, he hustles. His hustle is amazing. It's incredible. So I guess we could. That's not really it is a type of skill, I guess. So we could give that edge to Bam as well.
Yeah. Well, let me ask you this, because you work with players, right?
Yep.
And so, we see guys like Draymond who are just like, the smoke coming out of their ears. They play really, really hard. But you have other players who don't play that hard. And the question I've always had to a lot of coaches is, well, can you really teach that? Like, did a coach really teach that to Draymond, or did he already have that as part of his psychological makeup that he is going to be, that kind of player? What do you think?
Yeah, I don't think that's something you could teach. That's just, some guys have it in them and sometimes some guys don't. I feel sometimes you can bring it out in a person. I guess, if you bench them or do whatever you have to do, but I feel like most of the time it's just, it's installed in the person from, whenever they started playing basketball. Okay. I don't think you can really teach that.
So that's a good point. So if that's really the case, then why do you have so many coaches who continue to try and grind it into people and teach it that way? You know what I mean? I find it funny because I do it because I was that guy. I was like, oh, I'm going to make them run 100 suicides today, and that's going to teach them how to run and play as hard as they can. Yeah. And, there is some merit, I suppose, to teaching a player how to get above and beyond like what he thinks his ceiling is and all those things. But I don't know. I feel like the traditional way to do that wastes a lot of the practice time that you could be using towards skill development. And I almost feel like the toughness and the playing hard thing comes out of that almost that confidence that they know that they're really like better skilled than the other team. It's one way to look at it, because you have other coaches who are like, I'm going to overcome my skill deficit, not by getting them better skilled, but by having our teams like run harder. You know what I mean? And it's a strange, but it's a way you come about it. That's a strange way for me. And I've evolved to that point where it's like, well, why are you cutting short the whole thing that you're supposed to be doing about skills to like somehow getting to play harder? And then all of a sudden they're like not quite on balance. They're not quite fluid. They're not quite rhythmic because of that. They're so tight in a ball of fury to compete. And they can't play as well as they would normally play. So does that resonate at all with you?
Yeah, definitely. And I just want to mention, it seems like those kind of 4 or 5 men who are smaller kind of in the NBA right now are kind of all like that. Like you said, Draymond, and then Eric Pascal, who was on the Warriors now, kind of reminds me very similar. Grant Williams plays extremely hard. Been playing great for the Celtics lately. So it's just, something with those 6'8", 6'9" power forward center guys in the NBA right now. Who know they're undersized and that they just have to play harder than everyone else to even get on the floor. But yeah, it's interesting. I'm not sure. I forget what the question was. I kind of got off topic.
Oh, no. I mean, the question basically is, should we be, should these coaches be like torture is not the right word, but like somehow trying to make them push their players so hard with like physical exertion, running and sprinting, all that stuff, in order to get to this ultimate goal that they think is making them teaching them how to play hard.
Right. I don't think so. I'm not big into that. I played at Syracuse the past 5 years. I just graduated, and besides from preseason, we would never run suicides in practice. Like I said, like we'd do it in preseason before the season started, but once the season came and things like that, we would never run any sort of sprints or suicide in practice. It was all based on team activity, team plays and skills and drills, and just things for the team, offense and defense. So I don't think having guys run suicides or sprints will have that mentality make that come out of them in any sort of way.
Yeah,
I think it'll just make them even more mad, to be honest, and even more lazy potentially.
Oh, certainly, it could tap into like a hatred for the game in theory.
Yeah.
At the D1 level, I would imagine like that's not the thing you got to really worry about as far as playing hard. Although you still hear coaches who'll say that like we didn't play hard enough, and it's like it's just an interesting approach to it. I mean, listen, we could talk about Boeheim if you like, having been coached by him, but I mean, I can just remember. Let's see, when Syracuse won the title with Melo in whatever that was, 2003.
Yeah. Yep.
And they did it playing 2-3 zone the entire time. I can remember calling up other coaches and just lamenting, like, how is it possible that a team that plays 2-3 zone the entire time can win a title? It was great, especially back then. Meanwhile, we found out how good Melo really, really was, but that really helps. But it is true though. Like you didn't play one possession of man-to-man defense all season long. Is that right?
Yeah, that's correct. I mean, we played every day in practice, which most people don't know. Play man-to-man in practice, but in my 5 years there, no, we never played one possession of man-to-man.
So you play man-to-man, so you're going to be used to it when you play against that yourself, right?
Yeah, exactly. And like you said, I think that's one of the big reasons why Syracuse won that national championship and usually do well in the NCAA tournament is because besides from the ACC, whenever March Madness happens and Syracuse plays these teams who aren't in the ACC, they have never seen a zone before and they look just completely discombobulated and they have no idea what to do. I was on the Final Four team in 2016 when we beat Virginia, came back from like 18 down with like 9 minutes left. And then in 2018, I think it was when we beat Michigan State to go to the Sweet 16. And obviously Michigan State's, great program. Tom Izzo was a great coach, but they had no idea what to do. They had Jaren Jackson, the third pick in that draft, and then Mikal Bridges, or not Mikal, what's his first name on the Hornets? Bridges.
Yes.
It's not Mikal. That's
it's Michael, right? No.
Yeah. Is it? I don't.
No.
It's gonna make me mad.
I'm so bad.
But you know who I'm talking about.
Yes, I'll look it up. So, by the way, someone's going to tell me in the stream right now. Let's see here. Who is it? They're always quicker than me.
Miles
Bridges? Oh, Miles Bridges. There he is. Thank you, Library. Thank you, James.
They had a great team, but yeah, like I said, teams just in college, they've never seen a zone before if you don't play in the ACC against Syracuse. So whenever we do go in the tournament, I feel like that's why we succeed so much.
And wait, Syracuse is in the ACC now?
Yeah, we've been in the ACC since 2014, 15.
That's so weird to me. That's kind of like, when you find out that the Astros are in the American League or something like, what's that? Someone's in the American League. It's what's weird to me. I guess I haven't paid attention enough because, I'm still thinking, I still remember the Big East and how good that conference was. But yes. Mm-hmm. I mean, I had noticed that, I remember when I was covering when like a guy like Brandon Trish came out and somebody else, I'm forgetting who, they were in summer league after finishing up at Syracuse. They couldn't play man-to-man defense. They were really struggling. Mm-hmm. And I know, well, Deion Waiters, but that might not be because you played zone. It might just be because you're Deion Waiters. But so I sort of noticed that. I'm like thinking, all right, like let's just say you want to go to the NBA, why would you go to Syracuse knowing that you're never going to get prepared necessarily for, for the defense you're going to face when you get to the NBA? And so how are they recruiting against that, and how does that work? Do you have any insights into that?
I'm not sure how they recruit, and I'm not sure if kids necessarily like think about that when they're going into college. Like, hey, like, is this going to hurt my draft stock because I play zone? I mean, maybe they do ask that. I haven't heard of it, but
because if I were in the ACC again, Duke, whatever, I'm like, don't go to Syracuse. You're not going to be prepared for the NBA. Like, why would you ever go, right? And it seems like that would be a powerful way to do that. And then I'm trying to think, how many have there been a lot of NBA players out of Syracuse in the last 3 years? I'm trying to think.
We've had like 6 or 7 first-round picks in the last 8 to 9 years. Michael Carter-Williams, Deion Waiters, Tyler Lydon, Malachi Richardson. Who else? Tyler Ennis. Jeremy Grant was from Syracuse, who's made himself into a pretty good defender right now for the Nuggets.
You can say that again. Wait, so Jeremy Grant played at Syracuse?
Yeah, he did. Yeah, second round pick. I think he was early second round.
Yeah. Okay.
So yeah.
All right, let me do a quick shout out to Josh Courtley for a little super chat on the YouTube side. Thank you so much. That's very generous of you. And let's see here. Are there any other questions we might have? I mean, I'm always fascinated though about that, and whether what we think about that. Now, in Boeheim's defense, you do a lot of really interesting things with the zone. It's not just a normal, traditional, unaggressive 2-3 zone, and that's exciting to see because that's good. It's just like you're doing it every single time. But I'm sure you notice, what Miami is doing is very, very similar in my mind, especially because of how high the forwards come out and really make it into a not quite like an amoeba, which is what I coach, because I like an amoeba defense because it's really aggressive. But there's some similarity there when you actually stretch that out and the center's got to kind of play the block and then maybe even get out to the corner sometimes, right?
Yeah, definitely. The wings, especially for us, are so high and so extended, which is unlike usually any other zone. Most of the time, they're packed in towards the bottom with the center. But at Syracuse, we really extend the wings, and then it's usually on the center job to guard the corner if the ball gets there. Yeah,
exactly. And that's just like the same kind of rotation that we'd see in the amoeba. So, all right, people are wondering why we're talking so much about Syracuse, which is fine. Although, again, there's a connection between that and the Heat. Let's see here. Any other questions we might have in? Let's see. How about on the in the discussion here? Let's see. Dave Fataki said, "Oh, there was the answer to Miles." Let's go here. Andrew Jones answered the question about why they skipped Monday yesterday. They stagger out the conference schedule so they can catch up to each other. That's actually a good point. Then, because now they'll be on the right, game 2, game 3 at the same time. Mm-hmm. So that's a good point. And then I feel like there's another thing maybe disappeared on me that Dave Fataki had said. Oh, here, I'm on board for the petition to end pointless running during a season. I mean, running in itself, just to put a pin in this last one, we don't have to talk about it anymore. There's nothing about running a suicide, for instance, that prepares you. Like running in a straight line at a predetermined distance for a predetermined time has no bearing on how you play basketball. And that's the big argument I'll end up giving somebody is like, well, why would you do that? That isn't going to prepare them for basketball properly. So why would you do it?
Yeah, exactly. I'm all against the suicides. There's no point unless it's preseason conditioning work, especially during the season. No advantages to doing that.
But even still, like if you want to get into shape, like then there's a lot of other things that will simulate basketball anyway. And by the way, you'll also get some skills. Again, it's that skill thing that and I also rail against that only because I was that player. I was pretty good. I was like a D3 level player, but I could have been a lot better had I had a different mindset. I was always going to work harder than you, because that's what I was taught versus I'm going to be more skilled than you, So mm-hmm. And I did try to do the skills. And of course, back then, the skill work was so bad and not related to what you actually did in the games that you were just wasting time anyway. But it was the mindset I took that I thought was always troubling to me, where it's like, I should have been, I'm going to end up being so much better skill. I can be able to dribble better and shoot better than you versus I'm going to, wear you out by the end of the game because I ran faster, harder, longer. Like that just never doesn't make sense to me anymore. You know what I mean? So what kind of player were you playing at Syracuse?
Point guard, kind of old school. Pass first, like to get in the lane and just try and make my teammates better. Can make shots if I have to, but just run the offense and basically do whatever I need. So just kind of an all around player. Really like to pass the ball, like I
Nice.
said. And we do have one interesting question from Howard, and I'd love to get your take on it. He asked why we think Tyler Herro fell so far. I'm assuming in the draft he meant. So he fell to the 13th pick.
He went, right?
Yeah, Kentucky. Averaged like 14 and a half points a game. So solid, for a freshman at Kentucky. Shot like 35% from three.
Yeah. I'm looking at it right now because I want to look at it. 14, 4.5 rebounds, 2.5 assists. Yeah. I did a video explaining how they missed Donovan Mitchell because he also went kind of later than normal for guys, scores 25 a game as an all-star now.
Mm-hmm.
And even like Kuzma. And what do you think first? Well, I'll throw it to you because you brought the question.
Yeah. I don't know. I mean, 6'5", I don't know, white guy, coming from Kentucky. I mean, I feel like the 13th pick, that was kind of a pretty good spot for him to land. I mean, I guess now looking back, you would have taken him higher, probably in, the top 5. But at the time, I feel like that was a perfect spot for him. At one point, he wasn't even entering the draft. He was just, just putting his name in there to get some feedback. But then I assumed he did some workouts and got great feedback. So then he went full on in the draft.
Yeah. I mean, here's the thing. He's so young. He might end up like growing an inch the way this is going, right? And end up getting like 6'6", 6'6.5", 6'7", whatever. But I mean, yeah, that has to be what it was. And I think you're right. Where he got picked is fine. There's no shame in getting picked there versus, the difference for him is just a little bit of money. But, and he went to a perfect place with Miami, who already has a development program. So the question is, well, did Miami tack on a whole bunch of development? Did he really improve over that summer into the season? Mm-hmm. But again, there's a kid who's, literally he's a year and a half out of playing high school basketball. And he's not intimidated. So there's another example of can you teach that? Was he taught to be unintimidated, to be as tough as he is, and to be able to excel and execute these things as well as he can without that much experience? It's a good question. I'd like to know maybe more of his background and who he is, who his parents were, all those things too, because it might just very well be he's a special kid, and it looks that way to me. And it's rare to find someone like that who can perform like that under this kind of pressure and doesn't get he's unflappable. You know what I mean? It's crazy. Yeah. He's the guy, like you give him that shot for the game, but from 3, like he'll nail it if he's open. So I don't know. Did you watch him much in Kentucky?
Here and there. It was good, but Kentucky teams, they always have guys who are projected to be, top lottery picks. So he wasn't the only, good player on that team. So he probably didn't get as many touches as he would have if he had gone somewhere else. He was originally committed to Wisconsin earlier in his high school career. I think as like a sophomore, he committed to Wisconsin. That's where he's from. And then he started like dominating AAU circuit even more. He was on the USA team. Then he decommitted and committed to Kentucky. But I feel like, 14 and a half points a game for a freshman at Kentucky in college basketball is not terrible.
Yeah.
Not too many guys in college average over 20. There's only, 5.
Right.
So I feel like, he did fine at Kentucky.
Yeah, and I wonder if there's any kind of blowback against Calipari. Like, is there some notion that he's not winning like he was with all these players, and that maybe people just sort of didn't give him the same kind of respect that he had gotten in the past with all the number 1 and number 2 picks that he was generating as well. I don't know. They might have thought, because I'm assuming that Kentucky's record last year wasn't great. Is my mind's eye. Does that sound right?
When he was there, or
yeah. Tyler Herro's year. Now I gotta go and look up. Where did they go?
I know the first game of the season they lost by like 45 points on ESPN to Duke.
Wow.
That was the Zion, RJ, Cam Reddish team. but
Okay,
that was
here it
only
is.
like
I'm
the
going to
first
tell you
game
right
of the
now.
season.
Kentucky. Oh my goodness, it didn't take me to their. All right, that's
It
weird.
was
I thought it was the Kentucky team page. It didn't take me there.
one sec.
Oh well. It takes me to the page where all the
They
people
were
who played.
they were 30-7.
Oh, they were. Okay.
Yeah, so I'm not sure where they lost in the tournament. Um,
Okay. Well, that's
they
interesting.
lost to Auburn, who was in the I think the Final Four that year.
All right. So who knows?
So,
The draft is a crapshoot a lot of the time, and
Yeah.
it's kudos to the guys who actually identify them and can find them. Guys like that who can really help. And I think he's going to have a great career. I think he's going to be a starter. I think he's going to be, it could be an all-star the way he's playing now. It's going to be exciting. I mean, I think that's the other thing is we're now going to see, guards coming in of all shapes and sizes who have immense skill, right? When he was 10 years old watching Steph, now this is the fruit of their labors now. And that's what we're going to see. Like the Steph effect is now going to be hitting us now. You know what I mean? All those 8, 9,
100%.
10-year-olds were watching him when he came on the scene, and I think that's going to change the game radically. But all right, how about this? Let's wrap up with a couple more questions, maybe. What do you think the chances of the Nuggets winning the series, let alone a game, is a good question. So that's a good question. I think that the Nuggets could win. They're bound to win 1 or 2 games. I don't know.
Yeah,
I don't think they're going to win the series, but I think they're going to win 1 or 2. So I suppose that means Lakers in 6. What do you think?
Definitely 1. Potentially 2. So either Lakers in 5 or 6 would be my pick.
Okay. That sounds about right to me. I mean, listen, boy, man, would it be if it got to a game 7? I hope it does. Listen, my business model, means I want more games anyway. But man, that would be amazing to get a game 7 against those 2 teams. But I don't know. What do you tell you? It's been about an hour. I think we're good here. What do you say? Should we let's wrap it up? Any other thoughts you want to throw out there before we wrap it up?
I think I'm good. Thanks so much for all the listeners, Coach Nick. Thanks for having me. I really appreciate it.
Oh, my pleasure. I'm glad this worked out pretty well. So we could do this again where, bring in the locker room and we can bring other people in here and simulcast it to YouTube. I'm glad it worked. It was kind of a test. So I think that worked pretty well, except for the very beginning with the people dealt with it. But nonetheless, great stuff. Thanks for coming on, Shaun. I appreciate it. And we'll check out later and see what happens in the rest of the playoffs.
Sounds good. Thanks so much, Coach. Look forward to seeing
care.
your breakdown tomorrow.
Oh, me too. Thanks so much. And so all you guys out there on YouTube, thanks for joining. And don't forget, sports fans, at BBALLBREAKDOWN, we're not a channel. We're a conversation. You in?